Hello, and welcome to the San Diego Unified IT Training Department's video series, Tips and Tricks. In today's video, we will be covering Workspaces in Google Drive. Come with us as we learn about this new feature that has come out in the last few weeks that gives you more options in your Google Drive. Thank you for joining us. All right, here we see my sandy.net Google domain drive. It happens to be associated with my sandy.net email address. And each of us at San Diego Unified have a drive given to us, and we are allowed to organize it in any way that we want to. And what I wanted to point out to you today is that I have organized mine by name in alphanumeric order ascending. And all that simply means is that all of my folders that you see here and all of my files that you see down below here are organized first with punctuation marks. We see 3 dots in this name, 2 dots in this one, single dot there. And then after punctuation marks in alphanumeric ordering, we then see numbers. We have 2017 and it's ascending, goes up to 2018, 2019, 2020, and so on. And then it gets to the ABCs and it starts off with A, works through the alphabet as we go across, and then eventually we get down to the Z's. And then I have 3 folders here that I wanted to share with you because these are what we're going to use today for our practice of exploring this new feature called Workspaces in Google Drive. And so my first one here, just to take a look at it, it's the Triple Z first practice folder, and we're going to drill down on that in a second. I've got a Triple Z second practice folder, and then a Triple Z third practice folder. And each one of these has a number of files in them. Let me drill down on that one so we can see we're in my drive, and now we're inside the Triple Z first practice folder, and we see another folder. So I drill down on that one. We're now inside the Workspaces 1 practice. And so we have another folder with Google Docs and another folder with Google Sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and drill down in Google Docs real quick. All right. So we have some practice documents here that I've created for the purpose of this example today that we're going to be working on Workspaces. And so I have 3 Google Docs, Doc 1, Doc 2, Doc 3 that we're going to use with our workspace practicing. All right. And that's in this one called Docs First Set Practice folder. So if I go back one, then we see that we have a Sheets first practice set. And again, this is all inside of our Triple Z first practice folder that we saw in my drive. So let's drill down on Sheets. And you'll see I have a Sheet 1, Sheet 2, Sheet 3, Workspaces, Practice Google Sheets. Okay, so let's go back to Drive. So to get to any of those Google Sheets or those Google Drives, Google Docs, I had to drill down first into this folder and then into the next folder after that, and then into the next folder after that to get to it. And it's kind of the same way that I have these others set up here. And so I'll just real quick drill down on this one. All right, and I'll drill down inside there in Workspaces, and then I'll drill down on the second set of Google Docs, and we'll see that it says Docs 4, 5, and 6. And then if I go back one and I drill down in Sheets, you'll see that it's Sheets 4, 5, and 6. And so you can already imagine that I have in my last one over here, my Triple Z third practice folder, I also have 3 Google Docs and 3 Google Sheets, which is in this case 7, 8, and 9. So between the 3 of these, and again, I have to do a lot of drilling to get to them. Between the 3 of these, I have to drill down a lot, but I have Google Docs 1 through 9, and I have Google Sheets 1 through 9. And so it's kind of hard sometimes when we're drilling down in our drive, like inside of a folder, and then we go inside of another folder, and we go inside of another folder, and the whole screen's changing. And if you come to our deep dive Google Drive class, I just wanted to share with you what I always point out, in that you'll see here's our drive right here, and it has a little more button or an expand button. If I click on it, it's going to show us all of our folders. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bit more room here. And since this is a field, and then over here, kind of like our desktop is a field, if I get right between the two, just right, you'll see that my yellow arrow here turns into a left-right arrow. Then I can left-click and drag and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, well, that's helpful. And so if we go down here, remember I have about 25 files right here that you can see. So we go down about 25 files, and because this is my alphanumeric ordering, we can see that I have the triple Z's down here, the first, second, and third practice folders. So I'll scroll down a little bit more, and I'm going to hit the More button here. You remember when I drilled down on that, I found another folder inside the triple Z first practice was the Workspaces one practice, and then inside there I had two more folders. That's where the three Google Docs were, 1 through 3, and this is where the Google Sheets were, 1 through 3. All right, and then if I expand this one, you can see that it's set up the same way. So I've got my docs 4, 5, and 6 in here, and I have my sheets 4, 5, 6 in there. And then, of course, if we look one more time, then we can see that I have this one set up the same way. So what am I doing here? I'm simply using the expand and collapse buttons that are here to be able to demonstrate for you the organization of the files, or the hierarchy, if you will. So it shows that these two folders here are inside this one, and this one's inside of here. And then it's set up the same way all the way down. So again, those are all inside of here. But then along comes this new thing called Workspaces. So let's take a look at it real quick. And we're going to kind of explore and experiment a little bit with how that works. So if I click on it, it doesn't show that there's anything here. Oh, there it is. I was wondering when that was going to show up. All right, this is important. Remember that all things Google happen in the cloud. And depending on the firewalls at San Diego Unified, your internet speed, maybe the activity at the Google server farms, sometimes when you're trying to click on something, it might take a few seconds for it to show up. Or maybe you've saved something and then you go to look at it in your drive and it's not there for a minute or two. That's just because all things Google happen in the cloud, and we have to wait for the data that we're working with to make it to the server farms and then come back to our browser. All right, so here's our workspace, and let's just take a look at it. It says, create your own personal workspace. Get back to files you're currently working on so you can pick up right where you left off. Okay, the first thing I want to point out is these workspaces are about files. It says it right here. When I first started experimenting with this, I was trying to actually put folders in there. Or stated differently, I was trying to organize workspaces, kind of like I have my drive. So I have all these different folders with different kinds of folders in it, with different kinds of folders in them, with all kinds of different files inside of them. And so Workspaces, as it says, just works with files. So now that you know what is inside these three triple Z folders that I've created, the first practice, second, and third practice folders, and we know that deep down inside those folders are some files. So now we need to think about workspaces and what we can do. There we go. But it says that create your own personal workspace, get back to files you're currently working with so you can pick up right where you left off. Okay, so we're going to assume that the example of the files that I showed you, the Google's Docs 1 through 9 and the Google Sheets 1 through 9, are ones that I'm interested in making into a workspace. So let's go ahead and just say create workspace and see how this works. So first of all, we need to title it. So I'm going to title the first one. How about we just title it Google Docs Workspace, just for fun. All right, I'm going to say create. Let's see what it does. Okay, so the first thing I noticed up here is it says 0 of 25 file limit. So I showed you Google Docs. I showed you 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and 7 through 9. If I had more than that, I can have all the way up to 25. So it says get started by adding files to your workspace. Let's go ahead and do that. And now we are going to have to go search for them. But whenever you see a little button that looks like this called a More button, you can click on it and see what the options are. Okay, so I can rename this if I want to. All right, I can hide the workspace. It'll end up down here. I already have one that I've hidden for our class today. And then we can just remove it if we want to get rid of it. So it looks like it's pretty easy to make a workspace and then get rid of it. So it's almost kind of like Workspaces is a favorites thing, like this star down here, but just for files, not for folders. Interesting. So let's take a look at it. So we're going to add some files. I'm going to click on it, and now I'm going to have to go find it. So we look over here and we notice a couple of things. It's given us all kinds of examples here, ones that I've worked with recently. In fact, because I've just looked at all these different sheets and these docs, they're all right there. So I could just start clicking on these suggestions that it's given us. But let's pretend for a moment that it's some files that we haven't looked at in a while. So we don't see it there. Let's see the other options that we have. And so we have recent. This is the category that we're in. Here's my drive, so I can click on that. And now it's going to give us all of the folders. If you recall, my folders started with 3 dots, 2 dots, 1 dots, and then the numbers got bigger. Then it got to the A's and went down to the Z's. So I can go find my triple Z practice folders down there. All right. Also, we might have something in a shared drive. I work with the IT training department, so our department has a shared drive with the other IT trainers. How about this one? Shared with me. Maybe this is some files that we want to find with something that our department or someone within our department has shared with us. And so we can start searching for that. But now we see there's a little arrow button here. So let's go over and see, okay, so maybe it's something that's in our favorites called the starred. Maybe it's inside one of these. But I want you to notice something. I can't really click on this and then get an insert button here or double click on it. This one I could. And the reason is because these are folders and these are files. This happens to be a Google Sheet. So if I click on it, it highlights it and then says you can insert it. Okay, that's interesting. But I actually don't want to select that one. So I'm going to click away from there. Maybe I can deselect it. All right, let's see what other options there are. Computer. Maybe I have a file that's on my computer. Maybe I've got an Excel file or an Adobe file or something like that that's sitting on my desktop or somewhere in a folder, and I can go get that. So that's pretty interesting. So most of us will probably be searching around our drive. And since I shared with you where I have those files in which folders, those triple Z ones, the last of my folders here, let's just go ahead and go grab some. So again, if I click on this one, you'll notice it doesn't say insert. And again, because that's a folder. So let's drill down into that folder. And so if I go into my first practice folder, you remember I had a Workspaces 1 practice folder. So again, I can't click on this and insert it, but I can double click on it. And then there's 2 more folders. And because this is the Google Docs workspace, I'm interested in what's inside the Google Docs one. All right, so there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. I want all 3 of these to be my Google Docs workspace. And as you can probably imagine, I'm going to end up getting all 9 of them to create this workspace, but I have to go find them first. So let's go ahead and insert those. All right, so now I have that in my workspace, Docs 1, 2, and 3. All right, I want to add some more files. And so we already know where I want to go. I'm going to go to my drive, and I'm going to scroll down to the Triple Z second practice folder, double click on that to drill down, go into my Workspaces 2 practice folder, and then in my Docs second set practice folder. And then I have these 3 here, Doc 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to say insert, and now they've ended up over here. It's interesting to me that by default, for some reason, it's put the last modified right here. And I'm wondering if I click on this and change it. No, I can't. We see options all the time for being last modified, last opened, or by name. But we're not able to change that. Let's take a look over here real quick and see what the actions are. Okay, these are just the general actions that we have anytime we get on a file and we right click on it in our drive. So that's nothing new. That's the same as it's always been. So let's add those last files, 7, 8, and 9. So again, we're going to go find them. They're in my drive. I go down to the Triple Z third practice folder, drill down into the Workspaces 3 practice folder, and then the third set practice folder where I have 7, 8, and 9, and then I can add it, insert. All right. This is all right to me, the fact that it's last modified. And again, because Workspaces, it said right from the get-go that, hey, we just want a space where you can work with those things that you're, been working with lately and an easy place to find it. So I guess it kind of makes sense that last modify goes this way. I would prefer to see it in a different order, maybe 1's on top and 9 on the bottom, because that's where I'm going to look for it naturally. But again, because it's dealing with files that you've been working with recently and Sounds more like Workspaces is something unlike your Drive where you might set up a folder and it might be like that for 4 or 5 years. Workspaces might be something that comes and goes um, maybe on a weekly basis or even a daily basis so you can get to things quicker. Kind of interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and say we're done with this one. All right, there it is. So I've got my Google Docs workspace. Let's make another one. We're going to call it Google Sheets workspace. So I'm going to go up here to create. Oh, look at this. Using one of 8 workspaces. So they limit us to 25 files we can use, and now it's telling us we can only have 8 workspaces. But it does say we can hide workspaces to make room for more. And if I go down to here to hidden workspaces, you will see that I created an advanced Excel workspace where inside of there I've got a bunch of things, a bunch of files for my advanced Excel. Maybe we'll take a look at that real quick. Give it a second. There they are. So here I have a number of PDFs. These happen to be like cheat sheets or handbooks or things like that. And then I have an actual Excel file, all inside of the advanced Excel workspace. So that's interesting. So I can unhide it and put it back into my regular workspaces. I have it hidden down there just to see what that looked like. And again, if we hit the more button here, I can always rename it. There's another way to hide it right there. Or I could remove it and throw it out. And actually, we'll try that right now because I want you to see what happens if you click remove. So remember, it's an Excel file with 6 PDFs that happen to be some cheat sheets explaining how things work, as well as a handbook that I created, and then this Excel file. And so if I say remove workspace, watch what pops up here real quick. Okay, remove workspace. Here we go. The workspace will be permanently removed, erased, thrown in the trash, but files will remain in their original location. Now that's important. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this for just right now. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this here, and I'm just going to say done. So what it's telling us and what we just learned is, even though we're in workspaces here, and I've created a workspace where I have documents 1 through 9 that came out of those triple Z folders. In fact, if I go back to the triple Z folders, let's just do that real quick. I'm going to go back to the first triple Z folder. All right. And when I go in there, my point for doing this is you'll see that those 3 docs practice files are there, docs 1, 2, and 3. And of course, all the way from 1 to 9 are in the various different practice folders. And so in workspaces, it's almost like it's giving us a shortcut. Like, for example, we said that this folder right here actually is a folder inside of another folder inside of another folder somewhere over here. And I simply made a shortcut so I could get to it right there on the desktop of my drive. Well, that's kind of what they're doing in workspaces. They're just simply giving you like a shortcut to it, but it doesn't say a shortcut. So that's interesting. It looks like this is where they reside. So again, that's informing us that this workspaces is kind of a temporary place. All right, so let's create another one real quick. Apparently we can do 8. We're just going to do one more. All right, and we're going to call this one Google Sheets. Workspace, why not? All right, I'm going to say create. And here it comes. So now we have our Google Sheets workspace, and it's reminding us again that we can have up to 25 files in here. And remember, just because I called it Google Sheets Workspace, I could put Adobe files in there. I could put Microsoft Word files. I could put Google Docs, Google Forms, Google Slides files in there. I'm just going to add some Google Sheets ones because that's what I made for this example. But let's keep that in mind. And then just a reminder here, it's how we rename it. This is how we hide the workspace, put it down here in the hidden workspaces, or we remove it altogether. And again, when we do remove something, it doesn't mean it's going to erase all of these files where they originally were. In this case, they were all in the triple Z folders. So now I'm going to go over here again, and comes up to recent, which is pretty cool. And I can start clicking on these. In fact, you know what? I might do that. Let's see. I've got 1 through 3 there. and there's 4 through 6. So instead of going to my drive and into the Triple Z one, I'm going to go ahead and just use this one this time. And I'm going to do it backwards and see if it's going to line it up different. 9, 8, 7. And then I'm going to go down to 6, 5, 4. And then I'm going to go to 3, 2, 1. So I've now selected sheets 1 through 9 for Workspaces practice. And I'm going to go ahead and insert it. Ta! There you go. So last modified, it put it up here. So it's telling me by looking at this is that when I created these folders, or I'm sorry, these files right here, I created sheet 1 first. And in fact, let's just go ahead and maybe it'll let me, well, let's do this first. We'll say done. Okay, so now I have my 2 groups here. So let's go ahead and look at sheet 1. I'm going to double click on it. It should open up here. Okay, so here's my Workspaces practice sheet. And when I created this, to be able to create sheets 2 through 9, the rest of them, all I did was simply go over one at a time and just say File, make a copy, change the name to sheet 2, and then change the next one. So for example, if I go to sheet 2, you'll see that it's not only called sheet 2, but it actually says sheet 2 right there. And so I just kept copying these. And when I did it, you could imagine that the last one that I modified or created was number 9, which is why it's ending up on top. Okay, so this is kind of exactly how Google works. When something brand new comes out, you have to make inferences as to how things are working. And it may not always be exactly what you're thinking the first time around. And whatever way it works now could change tomorrow or a month from now or 2 months from now. It could disappear. For example, over here, this home button was priority for about 1.5 years, and about several weeks ago, they switched from priority to home, and now it works totally different. And so they're always adding and taking things away, trying to make it better for us. Okay, so there's our second workspace that we did. That's pretty cool. Let's just go ahead for fun and let's put this one, how about we hide it? Okay. Took a couple seconds, but it's gone now. And of course, we'll see it down here, our Google Sheets workspace. So I'm curious, if I go back up to here, I'm going to hover over this again to create workspaces, and it says using 1 of 8. So now we can infer from that we can have a total of 8 workspaces that are open that we can see in our workspaces. And then, of course, we can have hidden ones down here. How many? Not sure. I haven't made that many of them, but there may be a limit to those. But at least in our workspaces, they're keeping it kind of simple and tidy because, again, this is kind of like a temporary workplace, it seems to be, and it's just files, not folders. So it makes sense that 8 should be more than plenty. So that's kind of interesting the way that they've done this to be able to set it up. And I will tell you that in a deep dive class the other day, we went ahead and we explored workspaces. I had simply gone to Google search and typed in Google Drive's new workspaces, kind of how does it work? And as we were poking around in there and learning a little bit about this workspace here, at some point, it was offering to sell us more workspace. It's kind of like storage. At San Diego Unified, our Google domain, our Sandy.net Google domain administrator has given us unlimited storage, which is great. I don't have it open right now, but if I was to go over to my personal drive, after 15 gigabytes, you have to buy more storage. And so it's interesting that they're giving us 8 workspaces, but you could actually buy more if you needed that. But I think 8 should probably be plenty. Going back to our drive, we spend a lot of time over the years trying to figure out the best way to organize our folders and our files. And again, I have mine by name in alphanumeric order ascending. So 1 comes before 100, and those come before A to Z, but the punctuation marks come before both of those. And so, again, here's all of our folders with folders inside folders and then files inside those folders and all of that. And if we want to, we could put one of those in our favorites, or we could create shortcuts to bring those folders that are deep down inside other folders out to our drive. But again, we have something brand new called Workspaces, which allows us to be able to access any of the files that we put into these workspaces in this case, our practice Google Docs workspace. And then we get to it and we simply double click on it and it will open it up, and boom, there's our Workspaces practice document 7. That concludes our deep dive into the new feature in Google Drive called Workspaces. So thank you so much for coming to learn with us today, and we hope this has been helpful to you. And please share these videos with your colleagues and others in your department or at your school site. Thank you so much.